Hi, and welcome to your masterclass here with me today, where we're going to be diving into anger and reshaping resentment. Navigating anger and resentment, it can be a challenging path, especially when it starts to be almost like a blind spot. When I say blind spot, I mean when it starts to show up in areas in your life where we don't even realize it's actually becoming problematic. Now, the worst anger, believe it or not, is actually silent anger. Because that type of anger doesn't really get an outlet. It just becomes stuck. Whereas, of course, expressive anger, it has its other downside as well. Now, in this workshop, we're going to be diving deep into anger and resentment and how we can start to change our relationship with these very big dynamic emotions and also expressions. I'm sharing a lot here with you as well, based on my own experiences, what I've seen in my clients and in my students, as well as also really powerful but simple strategies to start to work through these big emotions. Anger is something that we all have felt. I mean, no one here is an exception. No one is above anger. No one is above resentment. And these are very big emotions that can sometimes become so incredibly big and so overwhelming that it can feel like it's almost dominating your life. It's incredible when I sometimes work with people to see also the impact that anger and resentment can even have on a person's health. Like headaches, migraines, muscle problems, muscle pain, even fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. A lot of these conditions are actually have a very strong relationship with suppressed anger and resentment. And when I've worked with people, when we start to address anger, when we start to work on resentment, how a person's psychology, how their emotional landscape, and how their physiological body and expressions also starts to change in very powerful and very, very powerful ways as well. So I'm really looking forward to this because we all know that anger and resentment, these are not light emotions. Like resentment, it's a very heavy burden to carry. And it's also normally born from past experiences. Now, these experiences can be a tremendously wide variety. I mean, we all have different experiences, right? But normally, predominantly, most of we, I guess, can probably relate to together is when someone have hurt us, when there's betrayal, maybe when there's injustice. All these can contribute to a very strong lingering feeling of resentment and a lot of incompleteness. And I call this almost emotional wounds in our hearts, in our mind. And it also can even show up psychosomatically as well. And this can affect all our relationships, including our relationship with ourselves, our career, future relationships, our mental health, and also our emotional and physical health. Now, however, despite even this heavy presence, resentment, it's not necessarily a permanent state. It's often a subconscious decision that we make to hold on to negative feelings and perceptions. Not a conscious decision, but a subconscious sense of, I can't let go, right? Even that in itself is a decision, even though we feel powerless in that moment. Now, when I looked at this from my perspective and my own personal experiences and my own relationship with anger as well, I noticed how anger actually served me in my life after the initial reaction of anger, of course. Now, the lingering anger is what ended up serving me. To have an angry response is often normal and sometimes healthy in certain circumstances. I mean, if someone attacks you when you're feeling unsafe, sometimes we can react in quite aggressive, angry manners to establish a boundary or maybe frustration. So when we look at these negative feelings and these perceptions, reshaping resentment and anger, it involves a journey of healing and also transformation, and of course, also courage. So if you're here with me, I salute you for being here with me because that's courage. That is willingness to look at your life in a different perspective, to be open to new possibilities of, observing your inner landscape as well, because this is how we build self-awareness. This is where it starts. This is where mindfulness starts, is with the willingness to self-reflect, and then also with the potential outcome, maybe letting go of the past, if you feel ready for that. Because that is something that I've learned in my own personal life. That is not something that can be forced. Letting go comes when you feel at peace within your heart, when you feel the threat or the old wound that maybe contributed to the resentment or the anger that you may be struggling with. When that starts to subside, when we start to find understanding of circumstances that maybe took place, not in all cases, but in most cases, it really helps that anger to start to regulate and to calm down. And I noticed, especially specifically in my life, the more I started to understand why certain things happened the way that it did, the more I started to feel at peace within myself, the more I started to feel happier within myself. It was not knowing why certain people behaved the way that they did. Why did my life play out the way that it did? Why did I even show up sometimes in certain circumstances the way that I did? It was this lack of knowledge, lack of understanding that contributed quite a lot to my anger as well. Now, I'm not saying that understanding a situation is going to eradicate the anger. I mean, it would be great if it did. However, it's not the case. However, I'm just sharing with you here my experience with starting to address anger, starting to address resentment, because let me tell you, I had a lot of that as well. Now, in most cases, trauma is the root cause of resentment and anger. Now, this can come from our childhood experiences, maybe abusive relationships, maybe other sources of pain as well. And as you probably might also know, that trauma can leave a very deep emotional scar that can start to show up as anger. It can start to show up as resentment. So as we're navigating trauma, and this also now requiring a very gentle approach, right? One that acknowledges our pain without the pain to define us, right? It also involves seeking support from within ourselves and also from our environment, and also as you are here with me right now. So when we start to look at anger also, this is another very powerful companion to resentment. And again, this is a very natural response to feeling hurt, feeling wronged, but it is when it's left unchecked, when we don't look at the reason why we maybe feel angry, when it starts to become a pattern, it's always there. We always feel angry in ourselves. Maybe we're always feeling irritated. We're always feeling unsafe. We're always feeling defensive. This is when it can start to become problematic and start to cause problems in our relationships as well, because it can actually cloud our judgment. So learning to start to manage anger, this also involves recognizing our triggers, finding constructive ways to also express and to release it at the same time. Now, this can also involve like practices such as mindfulness, which is how my journey started, and also with meditation, even physical exercises as well. That helped me so much was when I would exercise, cycling, skipping rope in very, fast, rigorous ways to help me to release that tension and frustration I was feeling. It's almost like this energy was just stuck in my body. This really helped me to channel these powerful emotions in a much more healthier way instead of taking it out on other people or sabotaging maybe my career or my relationships as well. Because when we feel anger, it triggers in the body the fight and flight response. Now, this is also when we, for example, can experience a stressful event, because our body, it prepares us for a fight or flight response, which is, this is to take action. This is maybe to correct a situation where we feel unsafe, or to move out of it, or to defend ourselves. I mean, the list can be endless. So what happens is that we begin to experience fear, excitement, and also anxiety. And the autonomic nervous system will start to prepare the body for maybe this perceived emergency situation. Now, I say this perceived emergency because sometimes it can be that we react to an angry thought, we react to an angry situation that happened in the past. It's not real anymore, but the body can treat it like it's still an emergency. But sometimes we can have a situation happening in the here and now that really truly is an emergency response where we need that fight or flight response to take off immediately and to react. Because when we look at the sympathetic division in the body, it increases also our level of arousal, like our heart rate, our adrenaline. And this can also now motivate us to act with alertness and also great speed. But now then we also have the parasympathetic division which now relaxes us. And this helps especially to relax us after the state of emergency has now moved away. Then we have our adrenal glands, and they also play a very particularly important role in determining our ability to cope with stress. Because adrenaline causes constriction in the stomach and also the intestines, which means that it can actually take our appetite away. And then it also increases the heart rate and our heartbeat. So there's no doubt that you have probably experienced this state of tension. You know, when your stomach starts to become really super tight, you're feeling your heart beating really fast, or maybe you feel like it's beating really loud. It's almost like you can hear your heartbeat, right? So this secretion of this adrenaline, which we also call epinephrine, this excites the sympathetic system, which now leads to a lot more secretion of the adrenaline. But what happens now is that a closed system of this all these excitable cells and this arousal is now formed. And this closed system is one reason, one of many, but one reason why the level of excitement takes a while to disappear, even after it goes away, meaning the cause of it goes away. So noradrenaline stimulates the pituitary gland to secrete another hormone. Now, this other hormone stimulates the liver to increase blood sugar levels so that the body has energy for a quick response. Now, the preparation of the body by the autonomic nervous system is also called the alarm phase, like the panic button. Now, this is also followed by the resistance phase, so that the body can resist the tension because its defense powers now might have been called into action during the alarm phase. Now, the body later returns to a normal, unexcited state. Now, certain psychological functions, however, continue to perform, at a very, very high level. As a result, there will be increased secretion of certain glands and also organs, for example, such as our digestive juices that can actually lead to ulcers and if not even diarrhea. So if a new stressor occurs, maybe it can be an infection, the body cannot always defend itself efficiently because, for example, as it did during the alarm phase. Now, if a person is subject to continuous stresses, then they can actually reach a point of exhaustion, where the defense powers of the nervous system actually collapses. So the body's immune system becomes depleted. And now an illness can start. And in extreme cases, it can be maybe fatigue, it can be adrenal exhaustion, and the list can go on. So if exhaustion continues for too long, a person might actually suffer mental illnesses or have a breakdown or have some kind of almost just psychological tremendous challenge. Now, we already touched here on so many health issues that health can cause and how the physical system of the body also responds to resentment and to anger as well. Because if the cause of stress or anger does not disappear for an extended length of time, the actions of our autonomic nervous system and adrenal glands is prolonged. So the pattern of preparation for emergencies in a way actually embraces the person's life in its closed circuit. So the person becomes a victim to a lot of unyielding levels of stress. So you see, anger is not just an emotion. It's a very powerful, visceral experience as well. Now, when we talk about anger, I want to also just touch briefly here on the resentment and the anger part, but also the associations that we start to make with this. A lot of people tend to overlook this. Anger is not just a response to something that maybe hurt us or upset us or betrayal or injustice. Of course, the response is there. But what happens after the initial response and how we deal with this anger, especially if we didn't have an opportunity to regulate ourselves after this traumatic event, to be able to find our sense of safety. Maybe we didn't have a compassionate witness there, or maybe we didn't have the eternal resources to feel adequate or strong enough to deal with the stress in that moment, which means it left us in a disempowered state of mind or being. And what happens then? It can often mean that that event becomes a traumatic memory. because we didn't build resiliency in that moment. We didn't overcome it. We don't feel confident in the face of that trauma if it had to happen again in the future, because the body is now storing disempowering memories in relationship to that old problem. But now what happens here is one of the biggest challenges is the secondary gains that we start to formulate and the hidden benefits that we start to formulate with anger after the fact, meaning after it took place, and the lingering essence of that. Let me give you an example. I'm actually going to use myself as an example. So when I look at my history and the abuse that I experienced, it left me feeling very disempowered, very weak, very vulnerable, very defensive. Now, my defensiveness is actually an underlying core driver was me tapping into anger, and I used that to feel confident, to feel strong, to feel safe. Why? Because the adrenaline gave me this rush of fearlessness. I felt, wow, now I can do what I want. It's almost like this adrenaline gave me that kick that I needed to be able to stand strong in the face of maybe a bully or another abuser, or maybe circumstances that made me feel stressful. Sometimes maybe I use that anger to just as a shield, as a buffer between me and other people, even though other people might not have done something wrong. But that boundary has become my anger, and anger became my boundary. So resentment also, same thing. Resentment is, it made me feel very stubborn. And that stubbornness, again, was another indirect gateway for me to feel that I have boundaries. So it's incredible how certain emotions, certain behavioral patterns, even though they are negative, and we know that they are negative, can start to serve us in very unhealthy ways. However, the benefit that they give us in that moment is what? Safety. We feel safe, which is what we want. So we start to formulate and build unhealthy pathways in relationship to find our sense of safety via these unhealthy emotions that we're not letting go of, such as anger. Now, the anger is there because the body doesn't feel safe enough to regulate itself. So what does it do? Well, we'll figure out how to work with this. We'll figure out how to find and draw our confidence from this, which it does now in this case with anger. So we start to find the hidden benefits of a debilitating situation. You know, it's like life gives you lemons to make lemonade. Body has its own strategies as well. And we don't even realize it. I didn't realize it until I really started to dive deeper into why is it that my anger just didn't want to shift. It was so engraved in me that I almost felt like it became a part of my personality. I was almost like, but wait, who am I if I'm not angry? Who am I if I'm not feeling resentful? God, what are my boundaries if I don't need anger to set boundaries? Like, how do I do that? These are really great questions. And I'm sharing this because I ask myself these questions. I don't know if you can relate, but that was my experience. So I would love to dive a little bit into this, and I actually would love for you to get your writing books out. We're going to do our writing exercises now before we start our meditation, because I want to ask you some really important questions. I'm going to ask you some questions that really, really help me to redefine and reshape my relationship with anger and with resentment as well. First of all, and I'm going to do this with you. So first of all, I would love you to write down. So let's start with a clean page. Maybe you have a computer with you or your phone. If you want to make mental notes, perfect, you can do that too. But I find writing for me really helps, just almost like journaling a little bit. It helps my thoughts to just flow. I would love you to write down, define what is anger. What does anger mean to you? Define it. Okay. And there's no wrong or right answer here because this is your personal experience and that's what matters. But let's bring more conscious awareness to it. Let's do it. Define anger. Okay. You guys are doing great. Just a few more seconds. Okay. So I'm going to share here with you what I wrote down. So I wrote down to express valid boundaries, right? So, and another one that I wrote down here was to express my need perhaps to feel safe, meaning if someone is threatening me or I feel like I'm in a threatening situation, to create an immediate boundary with the intention to feel safe. And then also to express my threshold and where my limits are. Now, when I say this, there is certain levels of healthy anger and then unhealthy anger. So it's about starting to look at, do you feel what you wrote down? Do you feel this definition is healthy for you? Do you feel, can you honestly say that this feels healthy for you, or that it feels balanced for you? Okay, so just take note of that. Now, my next question for you is, what does anger allow you to do in your life that you normally cannot do without the anger? What does anger allow you to do in your life that you normally feel that you cannot do without the anger? Meaning, what does it give you permission to do? Let's do it. And make sure I'm not burning my office down. Okay. I'm going to share here with you. I wrote down, it allows me to feel that I can have boundaries. But I realized for me in my life that this was not healthy, because I needed to learn how to have boundaries without always needing to be angry. Like, for example, just to recognize the slight sense of discomfort, like meaning to recognize the symptoms of a boundary being overstepped before I felt the anger. That was probably one of the toughest mindfulness practices that I really had to learn. So for me, it was one of that. And also to create space, like personal space and emotional space, mental space. And also, sometimes it gave me confidence, which was not healthy. Like it came from actually feeling very disempowered. And also when I felt vulnerable. So it helped me to feel stronger when I felt very unsafe and vulnerable. And sometimes this can actually be a good thing as well. But as I said, sometimes it's within limits. Now, people always ask me, well, what is the healthy balance? For me personally, I always say that our behavior, it's important that our behavior and our responses are in a way expressed that it doesn't cause harm or trauma or distress to someone else who is innocent in your environment. That's really important. If someone's not part of the problem, then it shouldn't be taken out on them. Now, if someone is, of course, part of the problem, it's also a matter of distinguishing and understanding how far do you push your anger, right? It depends on the circumstances. If someone pushes you off a pavement and they want to hit you, or they're angry with you, of course, then angry and, to defend yourself, that's very important. Like, that's within context, right? So just to give you a simple yet powerful example there as well. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. So the next question also is, what does anger allow you to feel apart from anger? This is our last question. What does anger allow you to feel apart from anger? And be honest. I'm going to share mine here with you. So in the past, for me, I feel my relationship with anger is so much better, but definitely this is what I would feel in the past. And that was, it helped me to feel stronger than what I actually really felt. And it also gave me energy, but this was toxic energy, right? The adrenaline, that cortisol, like go, 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 do, move, move, move. Where at the end of the day, in long term, you suffer because your adrenals will get burned out. You might start struggling with fatigue. You might have muscle fatigue and mental fatigue. The list can go on. So this is definitely something that was a challenge for me. All right, this was great. So I would love to actually start our healing meditation now together. So now you can lie down, you can sit up, whatever you feel most comfortable with. And let's start by taking a nice deep breath. One more. Very good. And now, I invite you to hear, feel, see, or sense yourself in an open, empty space. And in this space, I invite you to find yourself standing there, and there's a beautiful waterfall appearing in front of you. Stepping underneath that waterfall, feeling that healing warm water flowing through every single cell in your body, releasing exhaustion, tiredness, and stress. Feeling how it's just draining out of every single cell in your body and your muscles, your back, your head, your shoulders, your legs, your feet, down, 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 into the earth. Going, 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 going. Starting to feel more calmer, more relaxed in the absence of all this old stress. And as you're seeing it just drifting down, just realizing that I don't have to carry that. Not today, not tomorrow. There's no need. Being fully present with yourself in the here and now. I invite you now to allow this beautiful waterfall, feeling how the water is changing into a very cool, flowing stream of water. You're not cold, but it's soothing, it's cooling. The reason why the water is starting to become cooler and cooler is because resentment and anger exasperates inflammation in the body. Creates unnecessary heat also in the body, sometimes swollen parts and areas in the body, even pain. And if that is you, feeling how this cooling and soothing river, soothing cold water, flowing through every single cell in your body, down, 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 soothing you. Allowing that cooling water to flow through your mind, easing any inflammation that you might have in your mind. Down into your neck. Down into your shoulders. Flowing through and around every vertebrae in your spine, through your muscles as well. Down your lower back, your hips. Down your legs, calves, feet. Allowing that continuous cooling water to flow like a river through every single cell in your body. Down, 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 down. Feeling every cell cooling off, cooling down. Feeling soothed. Feeling nurtured. Becoming calmer and calmer. And even noticing maybe as if you have pain, how that pain starts to settle, how it starts to dissipate with that gentle cooling river flowing through every single cell in your body. And just maybe acknowledging anger that's there and resentment as well, and just say, you know, I see you. And thank you for perhaps protecting me or keeping me safe. Thank you for the role that you played. However, who I am as a person, it's so much bigger and greater than someone who is angry. I invite you now to recognize all the things that you have done and that you have achieved. Aren't you more than someone who is maybe angry or resentful? Yes, you are. You absolutely are. I invite you to acknowledge that now. Realize that now consciously. And knowing that you are worthy of expressing healthy anger in a balanced way. Invite you to notice your mental state and physical state becoming stronger and stronger and stronger in the absence of old anger and resentment. Remembering and recognizing now that there were moments in times in your life where you were able to overcome challenges or stress or boundary restrictions perhaps without needing anger. You have had these moments. And I invite you now to remember or think back to times where you were able to tap into your true authentic power without always needing anger. There's a part of you that knows how to step forward in that. And even if you can't maybe put your finger on these moments, just knowing, well, yeah, there were moments. There were these moments. That is enough. I invite you, as you are connecting to these moments right now, to also just listen to my voice here in the background while you have this cooling and soothing water flowing through you and over you. Down, 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 out your feet into the earth, releasing any and all inflammation and angry memories and feelings as well. I'm going to affirm positive affirmations here with you. I embrace peace and positivity in my heart and in my mind. I am in charge of my emotions and I choose serenity over anger. I release all past grievances and resentment. Love and compassion surrounds me right now. I know how to remain calm and centered in every situation in my life. I let go of old, outdated anger, and I welcome inner peace. I choose to respond with love and understanding rather than always reacting with anger. I allow myself to take a deep breath before I react in an angry manner, to observe myself first in that moment. I let go of the need to perhaps always be right, and I prioritize now my inner harmony. I am thankful for the lessons that anger also have taught me. I release all negative energy from my body and my mind. I allow my adrenals to rest now. I allow myself to be liberated from my anger, and I choose to live my life joyfully. I opt now to see the goodness in myself and also in others. I know how to use my discernment when I communicate with others. I deserve love and respect, and I no longer have to fight for it. It is my God-given birthright to also just have it. I choose to release anger, and I embrace my true authentic identity and who I am without that anger. I am at peace with myself and also the world. I release all tension and anger from my body. I am a source of peace and love in the world. I call my happiness back from anger. I call my power back from anger. I call my sense of peace back from anger. I call my inner balance back from anger. And I invite you to take another nice deep breath. Very good. One more. And that last exhale, imagine just exhaling everything down into the earth. Just down, 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 down. And now bringing your full focus and awareness to the bottom of your feet. Full focus and awareness is at the bottom of your feet. Feeling grounded, fully connected back into the body. Feeling clearer in terms of who you are without this old anger. And looking at anger also perhaps from a healthier, different perspective as well. Fully opening your eyes back into the room with me, and welcome back. Well done. Thank you so much for being here with me today, and I look forward to seeing you in our next session. And until then, bye. Be the light that you are. Bye.